The United Nations has released a new report saying that the number of people displaced in Gaza is still rising. That's despite the truce put in place after a full-scale operation by Israel against Hamas that claimed the lives of hundreds of Palestinians and over 70 Israelis. Let's break down the figures for you now. The UN says there was a significant drop in the number of displaced Palestinians at the end of August, but the situation changed at the beginning of this month, with more Palestinian refugees flooding into UN shelters. Right, let's joining us now live is Ramesh Rajasingham, head of the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs in the Palestinian territories. Thank you very much for joining us. The latest figures show an increase of displaced Palestinians despite the existing ceasefire. Why is that?
Indeed. In fact, we have about 110,000 Palestinians displaced now. They're either in schools run by the UN organization UNRWA, or they're staying with other families who actually have their homes. There are many reasons for this. We've had 18,000 homes which are entirely either fully destroyed or irreparably destroyed. So 18,000 homes means 18,000 families without a home today. But these figures have also been added to by those who've gone back to their homes and they've seen that they have no services. There's no electricity, there's no water, primarily due to the destruction during the conflict. They've also not been able to access services. They don't have adequate supplies, etc. So in many ways, what they can get in the shelters is better than what they can get at home. They can perhaps have access to water in the shelters, etc. The humanitarian organizations have been helping these families in these shelters, and as well as the families who are hosting them, with emergency water, hygiene kits, food. Almost the entire population of Gaza is receiving food assistance through the main UN organizations, UNRWA and the World Food Programme. So it's the level of destruction and devastation in the Gaza Strip has made it impossible for some of these families to return home. Even though they possibly do have a roof over their head, they can't actually live there with any decent amount of services.
This military operation has seen an unprecedented level of destruction for Gaza and a huge number of civilian loss from both sides. Is there any way for Israel to justify that?
Well, I mean, we're looking primarily at the humanitarian impact of the conflict. Obviously, we would, and in fact, now that you have a ceasefire, and people and those who can return home have to return home is absolutely an imperative. It's a must, and it's a very positive development. What we would ask for is that, because even before the conflict, Gaza was suffering tremendously from the blockade. It was very difficult to get building material in, difficult to get equipment and in spare parts. So it was in what we call a de-development situation. So on top of that, the conflict has just further aggravated the situation and brought upon a terrible humanitarian crisis for almost the entire population. We've had 118 schools damaged. Of them, 22 have been entirely destroyed. Now, this comes on top of a situation where before the crisis, Gaza already required 200 schools. So it means that in many cases, children will be worse off in terms of education. We've had 50 healthcare centers damaged, 17 hospitals damaged. The water infrastructure, the pipes, etc., has been damaged. We have almost 500,000 people today who have no access to water because there isn't enough pressure or the system is damaged. Electricity, we have 18 hours of power cuts for most of the population in Gaza because either the infrastructure is damaged, or in the case of the power plant, it's had to stop functioning because it was directly hit by the bombardment. So the situation in Gaza at this point, even though we do have the ceasefire, is a humanitarian crisis. And what we would obviously ask for is not just to provide humanitarian assistance, which is what most of the organizations are doing today, but to help Gaza recover, to help rebuild Gaza so that they can regain some degree of normalcy and not go back to where they were.
Ramesh Rajasingham, thank you very much for being with us here on RT International, head of the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs in the Palestinian territories.